The economy sucks, interest rates suck, banks are imploding, so it's important that you prepare to save money for those cold days, those hot days, and attack from the cocaine raccoon. Hey guys, welcome to my latest edition of I Wish I Had Known That, and today we're talking about insulation. You know, a lot of people don't realize, but this past Monday was the start of spring. Yeah, the sun is out. Everybody's happy here in the Pacific Northwest. Everybody's out because we just had coming off some bitter cold days of this past winter. But we know that as it gets hot, it's going to get hotter, and the summer is going to bring some stifling heat that's just going to make some of those days unbearable. Now, you know what's crazy? I moved out here from South Florida over a decade ago, and when I first moved out here, I learned that a lot of homes don't have central AC. They don't have air conditioning. To me, that's just crazy. But it just goes to show that you have to have good insulation because, of course, insulation keeps your house warm during the cold winter days, and it keeps it cool during those hot summer afternoons, okay? So a lot of people say to themselves, you know, everything, I got my insulation, everything's packed in, but I learned something, okay? I sold a house several weeks ago, and I had to get its insulation done. Sergio, met with Sergio. He was doing the work there, and he said, Julian, you got to know something, that even though you might have your insulation already packed in and looks good in your house, like a lot of things, insulation, believe it or not, can get old, and it needs to be replaced. Because if you don't, when those hot summer days come, those cold, bitter afternoons come in the winter, you might be saying to yourself, wish I had known that.
The first thing is to look for any gaps around the house where animals can get in. The second thing is if the insulation is more than 10 years old, it's recommended that you replace it because once insulation is worn, it's not as effective anymore. Another thing is a crawl space. When the ducts are below, a lot of times the person who installs them leaves a lot of gaps. So when you turn on the furnace, there's a lot of leaks, so instead of the hot air going up the ducts, it stays in the crawl space, so the furnace is constantly turning off and on, and it's driving up your electricity bill.
So I had no idea how they did it. They do it in just a few hours, by the way. They get in there with a big vacuum cleaner and they suck everything out. But before that, they have to prep the place. And by doing so, what they do is they set out peanut butter.
They put out rat traps. They put traps with peanut butter, and they're always checking them. I know there's some traps out there, I think, that people use their phones to check things. It's a little bit more modern, and it lets them know if there are any animals there.
Well, we know rats are always going to be a big problem whenever you own a house or a business, but what I didn't know is you got to make sure you close all those little holes and gaps because a little mouse could fit in the size of a penny, whereas a rat could fit in a hole the size of just a quarter. Yep.
All they need is a little hole, and once one rat gets in, more will follow. The flex duct is made up of thin plastic and wire. The rats make a little hole through that and they get in. And once you turn on the furnace, the air shoots up. So when the rat pees and poops, you're going to breathe in all that smell. And once all the insulation has been contaminated, it's recommended that you replace it. Now, I've replaced new insulation, some just 1 or 2 months old, because they didn't seal the duct connections correctly and rats got in, and now it's all trash.
You know, I don't know if I'd be able to do Sergio's job because have you ever gone up to like an attic, whether it's your attic or somebody else's attic, and you're just kind of scared to see what you're going to find up there? Well, Sergio has to do this every day. And the things he's encountered has been straight out of an Indiana Jones movie.
There's been times when we removed insulation and rats have fallen on our heads because they were nesting inside the insulation in the crawl space and they just fell on our head. You know, sometimes they'll scratch you, but we wear gloves and full gear, so it really doesn't matter. Then there's the raccoons. Now, those guys are dangerous. Once we see them, we get out of there quickly. Now, because they don't get scared. If I were to throw a rock at them, they'll still charge me. They just don't back down. Unlike rats, which just run away.
You know, Sergio says that aside from the rats and the cocaine raccoon, which, by the way, I call it cocaine raccoon because of that movie that came out not too long ago called Cocaine Bear, which sucked. He says that, well, he's also encountered bees inside attics, and in the crawl space, sometimes he's found cracked drain pipes, and that's the same pipe that goes up to the toilet. unbeknownst to the owner of the house, there's shit all around the crawl space. So guys, make sure you check both of those areas. Make sure there's insulation, proper insulation where it needs to be, and everything is sealed and tight and all the holes are clogged, because you don't want one day to get an electricity bill or go into the kitchen where there's a rat eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you say to yourself, I wish I had known that. Guys, thanks for tuning in, and please subscribe. Have a great day.